So Gabrielle, should we wait for you two to sit over here in the audience? Oh, there you go. We're ready for that. What I tell people all along is I look forward to the last Friday of the month, every month. I can tell you that last month it was a holiday, and I'm always fearful of standing up here in front of nobody. And Victor told me once that could happen. With my personality, that could happen. At the same time, I know that there's many things going on. After this, I was going to go to the event over at Mexican Heritage Plaza, but I had a phone call today from my grandson. Papa, something happened. So before I talk to my mom, can I talk to you? Which means it's school related. I know that. So I'm going to make a point to make sure I call him as soon as this meeting is over. But we all have important things and other things that can take us away. So thank you for all of you that came. We are going to be again on Facebook Live and the radio and everything else. I mean, it's we are between 1,800 and 2,000 hits a month. And so even if I don't see them, I know that people are listening. I don't see Tony here, though, who gives our invocation. And he didn't tell me he wasn't coming. So, Craig, if it's still, your offer still is, so Craig is going to do both the invocation and a small thing about Victor, because he didn't have a chance during all of those times. And he feels the need, and we're thankful for that. And then about the land acknowledgement. So, Craig.
Okay. OCO. We stand here as guests of the tribal homelands of the Muwekma, Ama Matsoon, and Esalen nations before the land was stolen from them. And I just want to acknowledge that right now. So thank you. Earlier this summer, as you know, we lost Victor, and he was our heart and soul. He certainly was for me. And I just want to say a few things about Victor and share a few things. I met Victor, first time I met Victor, I was director of the Indian Health Center. And I was immediately drawn to his charisma and his fiery and, colorful language. If you know what I mean. Yeah. And I was just enthralled with that. I couldn't believe that, because here was a man, he was speaking truth to power, and, BS, F this, right from the CEO's chambers, to Cindy's office, to, wherever we went. He dragged me along to a lot of meetings with him, and, I had to kind of cover my face sometimes, or I don't know, it was probably, I was blushing sometimes with him, but I learned a lot from him. And as I got to know him, he told me that he was part Kiowa, and Kiowa is a tribal nation that's mostly in Texas and Oklahoma, and me being part California Indian, but also member of the Cherokee Nation of Oklahoma, I was familiar with the Kiowa Nation. And so after that, we had a little bit of different bond between us, and I think that's when Victor started emphasizing more Native rights and stuff. And excuse me, whoa. And so, I was glad to work with that, and he encouraged me to work with the Native community. And in my position as director, and eventually I became chair. And I was working on the Affordable Care Act at the time. This over 10 years ago now, and I saw the opportunity to help the Native community, because there was a lot of opportunities available with that. And Anyway, so I started pitching it to the board and staff over there, and they were kind of lukewarm to it. So I went to Victor. I said, I need some help. They're not taking. We talked about what we wanted to do, took it to him, and he said, well, you got to push harder. So I go back, and still they weren't buying it, and went back to him, and you got to push hard. Don't give up. Push hard. So eventually, I pushed too hard, and I got fired. And I was feeling pretty bad. I was sad, It's like I came back to Victor, and I was sad, and I was looking for some support and sympathy. And Victor goes, "What happened?" And I go, "Well, I pushed. They fired me." And Victor goes, "Well, you pushed too hard." And so I said, "Yeah, but I mean, you're the one that told me to do it." But we had and I'll share one more thing. One of the things we did was I had an idea to get a tribal California nation flag for all the tribes of California. So I found one and went to Victor with it, and he was aware of it. And so he said, "You got to make sure it's we spread it around." So I went to powwows, events and stuff like that, and I showed the flag, showed it to the dancers, community members, and tribal members, and they liked it. I even went to, as many of you know, I'm a tennis player, and one of my doubles partner is the chief of the Winnebago Nation in Nebraska, and I showed it to him, and he supported it, and so I got a picture of him with the flag. But we worked on it, and we got it here in the county. We got it through the county, and it's posted. It hangs high. And if you go to the county offices on Heading, you'll see it up there. I was just there last week. I looked at it, and thought of Victor, of course, but because he pushed me to get it done, and I'm so proud of the county for making that happen. And the county made I don't know how big the flag is, 10 feet long. Those flags out in front, the flag posts. But if you go there, you'll see it. Anyway, so that's my memory of Victor, and just a wonderful man, as you all know, and I miss him, but I'm glad we're here and we're carrying on in his tradition, and I just look forward to working, keep working. Thank you.
I don't push that hard. The outcome still may be the same. I just don't push that hard. I do think, though, that I remember being in the elevator when Craig pointed at the flag. And there were many persons that helped us get that flag up there. But it was Victor who kept driving it, that we need our own flag, and it needs to be one that isn't taken down at the end of the day. Like so many are, you raise it and you take it down, but it stays there. And we were able to work it out with the past administration and this administration to have that continue on. And so there's many things he did that a lot of people didn't know about, but will be lasting. We're going to go now to introductions, but the program tonight is going to be twofold. One is, how many read the article about Alum Rock and the school closures? Good. I have to put this bell away, or I'm going to keep knocking it over. How many of you have ever been involved in school closures? It can destroy a community if you allow it. And what happens is if your voice isn't heard, then what you think the needs are not going to be considered. We're lucky that we have the last day of the interim superintendent. Manny is here tonight. I couldn't think of a better person to sort of explain where they're at, where they have to be, so they do not end up in receivership with the state. One of my toughest jobs in Riverside, because I worked for the County Office of Education, was doing that for the very first school district in California when they went bankrupt, and that was Coachella Valley. It was 97% Latino. You could not recognize that district after we were done, because it's all about dollars, period. Not about educational value, not about equity, not about anything but dollars. And there's one person selected, if you get that far, that gets to tell the board what's going to happen next. They like you to recommend things to them, but they have the authority to do whatever they want. And we're thankful you're here tonight because this community wants to be helpful in making sure that our families and youth, in fact, voices are heard. And see, they're coming right now to do that. And if this is the way to do it, to start off with the groups that are here, then we want to make sure we're part of that. But mostly, it's about saying goodbye again. Vice mayor, council member, supervisor, director of South Bay Labor, you name it, Cindy has done it. I have to tell you that when I first got here, Victor likes to tell the story about when we first got here, he scared everything out of me, meeting him for the first time, and he was right. That was not the scariest person I met, though. There's a lady right over here that was so nice and kind and gentle. I thought, of the two, I have to keep an eye on this one because I'm going to keep nodding yes even when I should stop. I have to tell you that I go back to the closing of schools. If you want a champion on your side for parents, community, and students, it's this lady right here. And people are going to say goodbye. This community knows you. This community grew up with you. At the end of the day, New Mexico is lucky to have you, and I hope they don't keep you, because I think you should come back. At the end of the day, you have to recognize champions, and that's what she is. And so we're gonna, those that would like to say a few words, but mostly this is my time to say thank you. So we're gonna introduce, we're gonna start here, and then after introductions, those that would like to speak, we're gonna hand out a microphone. Just to say, you could either say goodbye or some thoughts, because she had many other places to be, and she was able to carve out a little bit for us. And that's the way she always is. She always has time for family, and that's what we are. So we'll start here.
Good evening, buenas noches. Raúl Colunga. I'm a co-founder and co-chair of Roundtable. With the mic with the bell. Oh, yes, from around the world. Here you go, Dave.
Vice Chair, Santa Clara Valley Water District. Bless. But the most important is this, for yourself and in Victor's name, please vote.
Ramon Martinez, LaRaza Historical Society, longtime supporter of schools, longtime follower of that man. If Alum Rock needed help at this time, they got it.
Dr. Peter Nguyen, board member of Connection Family Medicine.
Gabrielle Antolovich with the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ+ Community Center. And I refuse to say goodbye. I even called your employees to say, is she really leaving? Is this a hoax? Anyway, wah, that's all I can say.
Jose Guerrero, also with the Billy DeFrank LGBTQ+ Community Center. And Cindy, thank you. The first thing I did when I walked in, I told Gabrielle, you need to introduce me to her.
Hello, I'm Isabel. I'm with Cindy's team.
I'm Robert Aguirre, advocate for the unhoused.
Craig Pasqua, co-chair LaRaza Roundtable.
Thank you, Greg, for your stories about Victor. It's tempting to share some stories, but that would probably take all night. So when we first met, my colleagues had sent, we were students together, and they thought that he was going to beat me up. He was just out of the service, and I was student body president, and he wanted to know what was I going to do about veterans. I was talking about the administration, this or that. He said, no, what are you going to do about that? That's the way he's always been, and we became instant friends. And probably in the next meeting, we're going to share stories about Cindy, aren't we? Because I don't know about the wah, but I can't say goodbye.
Corina Herrera Loera, Alum Rock Elementary School District Trustee. And I'm going to say my goodbyes now because I have to leave early, so I'm sorry for not following directions. But Victor was like, do it, Corina. I'm like, all right. So Cindy, thank you. Thank you for your leadership, your mentorship more than anything. As a young Chicana, Wirarica indigenous woman that usually is not invited to be, in leadership at tables, you taught me to bring my own chair. And you taught me to speak up for what matters. So thank you for, I can be here for hours, but I just want to say thank you. Really feeling grateful for your leadership as a woman in our Silicon Valley, as a Latina woman, continuing to show us that we can be there. So yeah, I can be here for hours. And, grateful that my peer, Andres, and our current superintendent, interim, but today's the last day, will be there to speak on behalf of our district and the amazing things that are happening. I see what we're going through, and thank you for listening, by the way, when I came up last month and said, invite us, we have a lot of things going on, so thank you for inviting our district. I see our district as like a night, right? The darkest night, right now we're going through that. Darkest night. But when we know that the next morning will come, it's that hope that we know we can hold on to. And so, thank you for allowing me, because you all also vote, to be there and represent and support. And I hope that you all continue to support me as a candidate now to be reelected on the board. Thank you.
Damon Silver, Public Defender's Office. I just want to take a quick second and say, Cindy, I want to thank you for all the support you've really given our office and the clients we've served and the mission we're committed to. So we wouldn't be the office we are without the support and leadership that you've given at the county. So really, thank you so much.
Catherine McBain from the Office of the Independent Police Auditor. Ms. Chavez, I just want to say you have always and always will have my vote for whatever I can vote for you for. You have been such an inspiration and such an amazing leader, and I'm so sad to hear that you're leaving. And I do hope you come back.
San Jose Police Department Captain Randy Torres. I have the Western Division, and I can't really talk about politics in my position, but I would vote for you.
And I second that motion. My name is Alberto Carrillo, retired from the Office of Human Relations in the county after 25 years. I'm a veteran, United States Army, and very involved helping veterans. And I had the pleasure of knowing you and your husband, and it's really, amazing that all the stuff that we've worked on together, what you're doing, and hopefully you'll come back.
My name is Ernesto Barajas, and Sandy, I have a lot of words to say about you. You've been helping a lot, this San Jose, and many things, just not one thing. And I can say the things you've been helping us, I think I don't finish in 2 hours. So, sorry we miss you, and it's going to be hard to replace your place, that's for sure. But like what they say, I hope we're going to see you back soon. Thank you.
I share the sentiments of everybody. Thank you. I've known you since I worked for Jim Bell, way back when I started as an intern. Now I'm an occupational therapist in Alum Rock, 20 years. So we appreciate seeing you, and we'll be around. This is my daughter. So she's a little shy. Alicia Guerrero. Guerrero.
Noah McCutcheon Garza, college student at Evergreen Valley.
Danny Garza, I'll speak to you later. You know, Plata Arroyo Neighborhood Association. Like I said, there's so many things I want to say, but I'll just keep it short right now.
Terry Padilla, Plata Arroyo. It was nice meeting you, and I wish you the best in your new journey.
Yes, hello, my name is Ronaldo Gill, and I'm developing a lot of AI economy courses and programs here in East San Jose with Conexión.
Hi, my name's Patty Cortese. I'm a trustee with Eastside Union High School District. I just walked in the door. Are we saying goodbye to Cindy? Yes. I'm not. This is not goodbye. This is definitely see you later, see you around. We have so much history, Cindy, you and I and Dave. I remember when you served together on the city council and you were pregnant with Brennan. I mean, that's how far we go back. You know, anyway, my heart is full. There are not the words, but we will share more.
Thank you. I'm Enrique, representing, I guess, DFCS today, and just want to tell Cindy that I concur with Bob. I think your heart will pull you back because this is where your home is.
Good evening, relatives. Gerardo Ixte Loera, Director of Development and Communications for the Inn and Health Center of Santa Clara Valley.
So now those that would like to say a few more words, just raise your hand and we'll bring the mic to you. Or else you all said it. No. Go right ahead, Danny, because
Okay,
you got the mic.
So I got the mic. Cindy, you know, there are not words to explain the education you have given me. I remember when I used to pound on tables and kick rocks, but you took me aside and said, your points are valid, your approach is not. And so I want to thank you for that. That is irreplaceable. That's an education that no one gives me. Not even political science at San Jose State will teach you that. You took me under your wing, and we're fighting pollution on Alum Rock Avenue because of you. We're in the county exec's office because the city's not doing their job, okay? And of course, I could go on and on and on, working with Plata Arroyo, working with Guadalupe and Mayfair, Ernesto and Casal, Capitol Park, everything you've done for us. You've led us out of the dark into the light that we will never go back to. And then all the things, let me just finish with this. All the things you did with COVID for us, adult diapers, feminine products, masks, tests. I mean, I could go on and on. I write it down. It's all in Spotlight. So who's next? I appreciate you. I love you. I'm going to miss you, man.
I went to say nice things about Manny. I forgot that the trustee who brought in Manny is here. But I was going to say, I just came back from visiting my family in Bakersfield, and you remind me of being home because we were talking how our parents always told us, be careful with what you do because God is watching. This thing about Cindy leaving, no. There's nothing in this city, there's nothing in this county that doesn't have something to do with Cindy. Anytime you have anything to do with the culture, the politics, this society, Cindy built it. and you're not going to escape it. Cindy is everywhere, and Cindy's watching.
That sounded, I like that. I like that.
Yeah, thank you for taking the time to honor Cindy. Refresh my memory, I was in the firehouse, and you first got elected, of course, the old city hall. I want to say 95? 99, okay. Station 2 on 6th and Julian that Janet Gray Hayes gave to the NAACP. That's where we first met. You know, some people get elected, you know, it's just election, but we became friends. And for whatever the years, the paths always crossed. And I can't imagine her leaving, but I know she'll be back. She always serves, and what it is, the public always came first, always did the job, no matter what. I'd have an idea, I'd say, why don't we get a tank and go right through their house? She goes, well, Dick, that's a good idea, but let's try it a different way. So she would always have the time to make it light, but make sure we got the representation. And I think anybody who lost them, never lost an election, she just didn't get voted. And that's one of the things on the east side we've got to do a better job. Because Victor did that for Zoe Lofgren, and she won the Congress election. Thanks to the east side. We've got to bring that back. We've got to vote. We keep on letting everybody down, plus ourselves. But anybody who runs for election has ups and downs, continues getting jobs for people in South Bay Labor. COVID-19 saving lives. She was the champion. She never stopped giving. Her husband and her and I and her kids, all good friends. We're going to not leave. We'll still be in relationship. So thank you, Cindy.
I'll say a few quick words so we don't start crying. But we're really going to miss you. And, you know, the bottom line here is everywhere you go in this town, Cindy's legacy is there, everywhere. Obviously, we're going to miss you.
I can't even recall how long I've known Cindy. You know, I was a mere child when I came to work for the county. No, but I was a mere child. I'm not that old either. Our paths crossed many times. She's always been a champion for the community and a big supporter of Latino-related issues. I'm sorry to see you go because we still have a lot of work to do over in DFCS with what's going on. And I know that you and Sylvia have been strong champions on that issue. I hope that whoever is seated to replace you picks up the mantle, and I'm sure you'll help them with the historical information they need. I'd be happy to. I'd be happy to. But enjoy your next journey, and welcome back whenever you arrive.
It's hard to be brief. I mean, we know her as a champion in so many areas, but most people don't realize she's been a champion for small business as well from the very beginning, especially immigrant-owned businesses, women-owned businesses that had nowhere else to go. She was always there, always as a champion. I did have a question, though. I remember very well your first campaign because I walked in it. And I remember part of your story, I don't call it a trigger, but sparked you to run, was somebody had shot something to your house. Whatever happened to that bullet?
The San Jose Police Department picked it up the next day. This is pre-CSI, so I touched it. And that wasn't helpful. But anyway, they picked the bullet up, and it was part of the case that ended up ending with actually a death of someone.
Wow. We need that in a museum somewhere. We want to be able to celebrate what it did.
I have a picture of the wall being blown out. I mean,
But for night, I think, thank you, Ramon, for, I think, the message I'll share with my people that we work with. When times are difficult, I now know to say, Cindy is watching.
My apologies. I came in late relative, so I missed the prompt. But I am grateful that there's an opportunity to express our gratitude to you, Cindy. As I mentioned, I work for the Indian Health Center of Santa Clara Valley, where we serve over 23,000 patients who represent the lowest income earning members of our community here in Santa Clara. Along with that, we're also the only ones who specialize in the unique healthcare needs of American Indians. And Cindy, you've been a longtime friend of our agency, of our community. I'm a resident of D2, and you're one of las grandes, you know what, you're one of those big ones that we always will get to look up to, and I'm really grateful for your allyship over the years. The amazing example that you provided, not so much for me, but I think about the young ones that have been able to grow up in your periphery and bear witness to the beautiful changes that you've made in our community for the better. I really am grateful to you, and I know that my mother, Amelia Lucero Munoz, is from Las Cruces, New Mexico, and so I know that we share lineage in that way, paisanos de Nuevo Mexico, and although New Mexico is a dream state for me, I know that you and I will always call San Jose home, so thank you for everything. Oh.
Cindy, I want to share something with you that you probably do not know. I met Jim before I met you, your husband. Yeah, he was involved in the community, as you know. And so, but at the same time, I mean, you always helped our office, Human Relations, when you were in the city council. Jim McIntyre and I used to call you regularly for different things, and you always came through. So we want to thank you, and I'm sure that I think a lot of us in the community are going to miss you. Hopefully you'll get back. Anybody else?
Cindy, I want to say thank you on a personal note, because during a very difficult time when the change in the District 2 office took place, and, it would have been easy for you to say, I'm gonna start anew, I don't need any distractions, and you allowed me to stay on board and to continue to serve, to help you serve the people of District 2. Very appreciative of the space that you gave me, and I remember sitting down and you're telling me, talking about this airport, what's going on? What's the deal here? And you allowed me to rant for as long as I needed to about what's going on at the airport, and I'm just really appreciative of that your leadership took us to where others started, and they attempted, and they were almost there, but you saw it through, and I'm sure that by 2031 it's going to happen, and we'll be able to stop seeing the children of East San Jose being poisoned by the lead fuel and all other stuff that comes out of those airplanes. And so thank you for the work that you've done, not just for the airport, everything else, but that's obviously something very personal, and it's what stands the most for me. So thank you very much for that.
Okay. Well, I wanted to say I have one regret with Cindy, and that was when I was a very young director of Indian Health Center, and I remember meeting Dave and Cindy. They were always together. They were always supportive of the Indian Health Center. But after that meeting, the first time, I don't know when that was, but Cindy came up to me and said, I want to work with you. And me being new, this must have been 20 years ago, and I never took you up on that offer. And that's the one regret I have. But on behalf of the community, the Native community, I mean, the entire community, all communities around here, just so much gratitude to you for the wonderful work you've done. And a lot of people don't even realize that. But, that legacy will carry on toward healthier communities, healthier people. And that's, that will be your legacy here. And my tribe, our language, we say OCO. And that means goodbye, or it doesn't mean goodbye. It means hello and goodbye. It doesn't really have a meaning. It's just a greeting. We don't say goodbye. But what we do say is wado, and that's thank you.
So I'll take it. Was there some, back there, okay. Two things, and then we're gonna let you speak. I left school administration and got into an elected office. First person I talked to about even thinking about that was Cindy. So we sat down. She had no reason to keep talking to me, but she did. She gave me all the pluses and minuses about switching from being the one person to being one of five. At the end, I did it anyway. But what it let me leave with is a better understanding of the type of teamwork you really needed when there is a body that you're part of as opposed to just the only one. I want you to remember all those conversations that we had about that, because that's what you're doing now. And you're going to find it even more fun because you get involved, you get to be involved in every day helping individuals. And that's probably the most rewarding thing I ever felt at Eastside. So I think you get something for that. But the last thing, and then we're going to let you talk. I don't know that there's really been ever a time we've gotten together, I don't care when it is, that one of the questions I get at the end is either, why are you Republican? Or I don't believe you're Republican. And it wasn't even that. I was the chair of the Republican Party. So that, she said it in a toned down way. I know that. But about in the middle, about 3 years ago, I became an independent. Doesn't change the question to me. You know, Bob, why are you Republican? No, remember I became an independent. Same thing. Why are you still a Republican? So my parting gift is last night I changed my registration. So I'm now a Dem. I'm not sure I know exactly what it means yet, but I can look at you for guiding me there. So a few words from you.
What a great gift. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Well, first of all, let me just say thank you to everybody. And there literally is not a person probably in this room that we haven't done some work together over the years. And I want to say thank you, because one of the things about being in public service, as you all know, is this is something that we never, ever, ever do alone. And some of the things that I'm most proud of, frankly, they weren't my idea, and I was working with people I didn't normally get along with. And the reason that's important is that the one thing I've learned in this long trajectory of public service is that relationships really matter, and how you treat people really matters, because people you may be nervous about or maybe not feel like you have a connection to, someday you're sitting close up with them and you can't imagine that wouldn't be your friend. And I have a ton of examples of that. So I say that because I just think that in this new era of politics, like really helping people understand that the world is relational, and we're not always going to please each other. And if we don't give each other the space and grace to grow, then we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing, not as public servants, but as human beings. And I want to give you an example that has nothing to do with me. I was proudly telling, somebody had asked me for an endorsement, and I said, I'm not endorsing that person. And I told them the reason why, and I went to the person who had a conflict with them, and I said, I just want you to know that that I stood up for this tenet, this belief that you have, that you and I share, and that's why I didn't support the person. And this was an older, wiser person in the community who looked at me, and I honestly, I don't know how, I probably had been in elected office like an hour, and I was already like, what? I know what I'm doing. And the person said to me, if we don't believe that people can change, then none of our struggles get better. If we don't believe we can educate people out of racism, out of homophobia, out of misogyny, out of old ways of thinking, why in the world would you choose public service? So that is a powerful lesson. Thank you. The second thing I want to say is to all of you, when I come to LaRaza Roundtable, and this is a funny thing, people don't always think about this, but I know how pink I am, meaning I've always had light hair, I've always been light-skinned, and I remember, my cousins would always tease me because I'm the lightest one of our kids, but they would be like, you didn't go through the toast, or whatever the expressions that we have about how we identify in the world. But
but I have never, I've never forgotten the feeling of seeing somebody familiar in a room and that giving you a little bit of confidence. So, and you know how emotional I am, you guys, but so my father died when he was 52, and so there's a lot of things that I've done in the world that he didn't get to experience, and like he never met my son, he hasn't met my husband. I think he would be confused by my husband, actually. Time for a different day, because my dad, whenever we would date, my dad would always say, "Is he Mexican?" I'm like, "No, Daddy." He'd be like, "Oh, I don't know. Don't bring him around." So anyway, but I say that because the thing that makes me feel so just confident, and every one of you has done this for me at least one time in my life, is I've been able to look out, either because I've been in a debate or at a forum or having a really rough conversation with somebody and seen one of you and felt that support, that pride, and that strength that makes it easier to fight for things even when they're hard. And I had that experience with you the first time I ran for mayor. I'm not making a habit of that, it's done now. But the first time I ran for mayor, I remember we were at a debate and you were standing in the back of the room, and I was, you know, the only one up on, I mean, I was the only woman on the stage, and everybody had just had a chance to say, "You're not doing this right, you're not doing this right," and it was like kind of my turn to defend myself, and I looked out, there you were. You got this. Like, throw your shoulders back, take a deep breath, lean in. So I say that because I want to wrap up with these 2 points. One is that it is very hard for, especially for women, to learn how to say, "I'm good at something, I excel at something," and to be able to say, "Here are all the things that I've done," right? As I was running for mayor, I remember just saying, "Oh my gosh, if I say I one more time, I'm just going to poke my own eyes out." But I understand, and I want you to understand, that all of the accomplishments we've had, that we have had together, and I don't mean this in a self-deprecating way. I mean, literally, you can't do this work by yourself. I have always wanted to come back here to all of you and say, we protected 2 hospitals. We're buying a 3rd, right? That we passed an $950 million housing bond, and by the way, it's building more housing than we anticipated, and through that program, when we're done, we're going to have housed 15,000 formerly homeless people. That, in fact, we were the first city and the first county in the country to offer every child health insurance before it was a national trend. That, in fact, the way we responded to COVID was absolutely shaped by the common experiences, by the way, of our board, including Dave, that when we had murders in our jail, that actually Dave made us do a task force. When I say made, I mean that meant it was his idea and I was on the task force. But and that we have fundamentally changed the way the jail runs. That we, and we're not done, and I say all this, I mean, I could, literally, I could go on and on and on. I only say that because I want you to understand that these are family accomplishments. We became the first county to disallow the sale of leaded avgas at our municipal airports. People around the country are fighting to do that now. Do you know how many children are impacted by that? 3 million children. 3 million children are being poisoned every day by lead. And the work that we did as a county and that we did as a community, which I never could have done alone. I followed Blanc, I followed Zoe. And I'm sharing that because I want you to understand that I wanted you to be proud, and I've been trying to learn how to be more clear about those accomplishments, because I want young women and young girls to feel like they can run, and run for office. So, let me just wrap up with this last point, and then I'm going to tell you about New Mexico. The other thing I've learned over my 40 years is that if we do not create grace for each other, like allow each other to act inappropriately, maybe have a bad idea, maybe not be thinking about the world that way, and I'm saying this for leaders in our community, that I believe our community would be so much further ahead if people didn't stay mad at each other for things they can't even remember. And that has not been a part of my my personal culture. My mom says it's because I have a bad memory. I don't always remember when people are inappropriate. But I will say this, that some of the biggest accomplishments I've had were with people that I was previously an opponent to. One of them is Dave Cortese. And what Dave and I were able to do at the county, phenomenal. But because we created grace for each other, built trust, and built a meaningful relationship, I have such pride in that friendship, but also in what I've learned from him, and all the things I would have missed out on. So I say that because as you all continue forward, it is the thing I worry most about with our community rising up and sticking up for itself, is that we don't create enough space for each other to have a disagreement and then not be able to get back in communication with each other, right? So that's my parting, like, please don't let the little things get in the way of changing the world, because I swear to you, it feels so wasteful to me. Like, we don't have these roles in the community. I don't even mean my job. I mean the roles you all have in the community. But let me talk about New Mexico. So I was born in New Mexico 60 years ago. I know. And when I lost the mayor's race, I was really wanting to still do public service, and a lot of the offers I got were amazing offers, and they were all in the private sector. And they were all with a lot more money than I would ever make, blah, blah, blah. But I kept looking for what could I do in a local government way, and the reason I was so interested in local government is I believe that there are so many people in the world that distrust institutions and don't know if they believe in journalism anymore or whatever. I mean, a lot of distrust in the world, that the one place I think we can win back trust is at a local level. Because people know their local police officer, they know their water district person, they know their mail carrier, and all of that feels local to people. So can people see themselves in government? Does it reflect their values? Does it reflect the community? Does it respond as if they were serving their own family? I've always wanted that, and as an elected official, I've pushed organizations to do things they do not want to do, right? No. But that's our job. So I was looking for something in local government, and clearly the mayor had someone sitting in that seat, and other opportunities locally, it seemed difficult to do. So I got headhunted by somebody to apply for the San Diego seat, and that was just a nightmare, which I would tell you over cocktails. But I then got on the national website for counties, and I saw New Mexico pop up. And again, since I was born there, I was like, what? So I'll be the county executive for Bernalillo County and Albuquerque, New Mexico. And for me, what I was so excited about is that, that place gave my parents incredible values. Like, as young teen parents, they came across to California. So I feel like I have an opportunity to go give back to the place that gave my parents so much, right? And this place, so just so you know, we're not selling our house. And, Brennan is still confused about why we have to fix it up to rent it, make it nicer than when we lived in it. As he's told me, he's like, Mom, are you kidding me? Anyway, and so I'm not selling my house because I want to come back and grow old with all of you. But I am really excited about spending time there, as my mom still lives there. And I'll just wrap up with this last point about applying for this job. So when I applied for the job, they made it public when the hearing was. And I was sitting in front of the Board of Supervisors, the county commissioners, and I'm listening to one of the folks who is applying for the job, also really, really sharp, young guy, an economic development kind of genius, and I'm listening to him. And as I'm looking at him, I see kind of out of the corner of my eye something kind of flittering, and I'm trying not to look because it's disrespectful, but I turn my head a little bit, and I see 3 of my aunts in the back waving, and 2 rows of my cousins have come out to support me in this, and that was kind of my feeling, like I'm home, and I'm home. So thank you, and thank you. This was lovely. What a kind gift, and especially you registering. Let me tell you, thank you. And I apologize. I have to go to Amigos after taking all that time, but thank you for letting me be with you.
She does. I did promise to have her out at 6:30. Am I close? Yes. So I feel really good. And it's not. I'm not sure I'm going to live that down.
I know we're gonna get the day after picture.
I want to know where that's going, by the way. But, so it's not goodbye, it's goodbye for now.
And come visit me.
That's right. I will. So now, before, I don't want people leaving yet, because the important part right now, is we still have a district to assist the best we can. For me, the east side, Alum Rock, we would call them, when I got there, we would call them feeder districts. And we changed that to partner districts. I just didn't like the sound of feeder, it just didn't sound right. At the end of the day, every district on the east side is going to go through what you're going through in Alum Rock. And I think up and down the state, the way they're looking at financing schools and giving money to districts, this is an opportunity. So we understand, Manny, sort of what the plan is, what you're doing, how we can become involved. And Dennis, if you'd like to say a few words about it. Okay. And then we're going to read to you, Manny. Then you talk about what it is and then how we can help. Yeah. Only so we can record it.
All right. Thank you, Bob, for inviting us and for giving us the opportunity to speak to the community regarding this very difficult time. Nobody signs up to close down schools. I came on to the board in 2012, and I told myself, no, I'm going to fight this all the way. We're going to turn the ship around. And we've had to come to the realization that the demographics are what they are. The charters are an issue. We can't ignore that. But people aren't having as many kids. The Brady Bunch isn't around anymore, and so people are not having as many kids. And so it's been a tough realization for us to have to right-size the district. And so we've taken action already with regard to the number. Now the tough decision starts where you actually put names to those numbers. And so just the whole idea of being an elected official and making decisions on people, Harold Laswell put it best, and he said that politics is the process of deciding who gets what, where, and what. Who gets what, where. Yeah, sorry about that. You guys get the drift. And it's a very difficult process. You don't get trained for this. And you definitely don't get trained for shutting down schools. I've faced off a ton of different things. You guys have seen it over the course of the years. We had to take on some very bad characters that were taking advantage of our district and having to get them out of there. So those were very difficult times. These contractors that were not good people. And those things were difficult. This is the one that makes you feel sick to your stomach, physically. You like to think I'm tough. I know how to deal with these things. I've been in office for a while, and I know how to handle it. Shutting down schools is the one time that I left feeling, and mind you, I went through SEC investigations at DA's office as a result of those bad actors. And I can say that I dealt with it. It was not an easy time. This is the stuff that really makes you feel physically sick to your stomach. And you have to deal with it. You get up, you keep on going. And the great thing is that we were able to seek out Manny's help. It was a challenge because he's like, I don't know if I want to go back to dealing with schools on a daily. I like what I'm doing right now, and he's doing some great stuff. But we're incredibly grateful for his decision to come on board, help Alum Rock during the most difficult times. We've been told that, and it's looming around out there, hey, Alum Rock's days are done, and here, no, our best days are ahead of us. We're going to make the tough choices. We've already begun the process. And the best days are ahead for Alum Rock, and I'm looking forward to those days where we right-size the district, where we get the right resources to our kids. We've been holding on to a lot of stuff. We're really, really overloaded in a desire of saying we're going to figure this out, turn it around, and we haven't been able to. Every day, approximately 5,000 kids wake up that live in Alum Rock that could potentially be going to our schools but go to a privately operated publicly funded school. If they were there, we wouldn't have to be making these decisions, but that's not the case. We're not gonna live in hypotheticals. We're dealing with the reality that we're facing, and I'm looking forward to tomorrow because we'll be able to right-size the ship and keep it going in the right direction and get those resources, the right stuff that our kids need. And so at this point, I'll pass it on to interim superintendent who can go into more details because I'm not supposed to be talking about any particulars.
Thank you, Andres. First of all, I think the first time we met, I asked you why you were a Republican. I went, why? I'm a Republican. I didn't have a chance to, I didn't know Cindy was going to be leaving, but I did tell her when she was running for mayor, there were a lot of Matt Mahan signs in my neighborhood. I'm in Willow Glen, and there was my one Cindy Chavez sign out in support. So she did have more support than just on the east side. Today is my last day as interim superintendent in Alum Rock. So this is my last official act. When Andres says, you know, can you speak to LaRaza? I said, on Friday? I'm done. That's like my last day. But I'm actually going to continue to facilitate the school closure process. I've done it in my own district when I was superintendent in Oak Grove, and I've assisted in 4 other districts going through this process. It is the most difficult process that a community can go through. And when Andres and Linda approached me, I said, well, I don't do interims. And so we were talking, and I said, but in my civilian life, my volunteer time, I don't know if some of you may know Dan Mosier. He was a former superintendent of Eastside. Well, we run the Eastside Education Foundation. And what we do is, about 7 years ago, I started the Spartan Eastside Promise with San Jose State. And so graduates from the East Side are guaranteed placement in San Jose State if they just meet the A to G requirements. It's now become institutionalized. We feel terrific about it. And what we do is raise scholarship funds for the students, and we also fund the summer orientation program. We have a dinner on November 2nd where we induct Eastside graduates into the Hall of Fame, and I'm proud to announce that Andres will be inducted into Eastside Hall of Fame on November 2nd at our dinner, so congratulations. So I do want, can I tell a quick Victor Garza story? So I don't know Victor like you do. We'd met a couple of times when I was superintendent, but when Dan and I, when we got a new president at San Jose State, Mary Papazian, so we jump in right away because we went, so the Spartan Eastside Prom is only as good as the president. So we were there, and Victor and someone else, but I can't remember the other person. So the 4 of us go in, and Victor starts talking and slamming, and we're going to do this, and we demand this. And I was there with Chris Funk, and we're going, you know, and he's slamming and pointing at her and so forth. And this is our first meeting with her. And she looks at us, and we said, we're just here to talk about the Spartan Eastside Promise. And so we leave, and as we're leaving, I go to Chris, and I go, why did you invite Victor Garza to our meeting? Because he's going to tick her off, and she's going to say we're not going to do Spartan Eastside. He goes, I didn't invite her, I thought you did. And so it turns out we were put together at the wrong meeting. They were there for something else, and we were there for something else. And we were worried that Mary was going to say, well, heck with you guys, we're not going to have the Spartan. But she was very gracious. We explained that we were just there for the Spartan Eastside Promise. So that was the last contact I had with Victor. This was when Mary was president. Let me share a little bit with what's going on. And I have to admit, I had a lot of my friends say, are you crazy when I accepted this position? But let me just say this. I've been there the last couple of months, and I've grown very attached to the district. I've actually loved my time. I love working with the board and with the community. I've got to know a lot of the people in the community. This is an extremely difficult process that Alum Rock is going to be going through. We are faced, I've closed schools before and I've helped other districts, but not like this. What we're dealing with right here out of 21 schools, faced with the prospect of closing as many as 9 schools out of the 21. We've been appointed a state advisor, and our careers overlapped when we were superintendents, and he told me point blank, he says, Manny, I don't think you're going to be able to pull this off. Told me straight up. And he said, have you considered having another district take over the district? I said, it's not going to be my call, but that's not acceptable to me. And I said, we're going to get this done. And work with the board. The board's there. It's being an elected board member in a district is the hardest elected position, as far as I'm concerned, because they know where you live. You're part of the community. I'm seeing Patty there. And it's very hard. And especially when you're faced with something like this. Nothing is harder. Everyone loves their school. It is not just an economic decision. It's an emotional, psychological decision. It's painful for everyone involved. I've been spending most of my time going around talking to neighborhood associations, school staffs, and we're into the process. We started, we started the process as soon as we're able to present the recommended process to the board. It's something that I've done. It's what other districts are doing. We're not the only ones going through this. Franklin McKinley is going to be closing schools. Barbera is closing schools. I helped Evergreen close schools 4 years ago. In Mount Pleasant, they've had to close schools. My former district had to close schools again. Enrollment is just declining precipitously. Let me put it in perspective for you. When I started superintendent in Oak Grove in 1999, Alum Rock had 16,000 students. Right now we have 7,300. And we're projected to have 5,400 in the next 4 years. That's where we're at. Just for various reasons. It's expensive to have kids. You know, I have 4 kids. My 3 older ones, you know, have their families. There's a 12-year difference with our youngest, and he already said, we're not going to have any kids. And if they do have kids, people are waiting a lot longer. This is no one's fault. It's not the board's fault. It's not the teacher's fault, not the union. It's just the reality that we're funded based on enrollment. Now, if you want to take on an issue, if you're part of the West Side where you're a community-funded school, we used to call basic aid, numbers wouldn't matter. And you need to know schools are not funded the same way. It's one of the gross inequities that take place in our system. When I'm engaged, and after I retired, I worked at the Silicon Valley Education Foundation for 10 years, and we'd put on forums, and I'd ran into a lot of wealthy people. And, you know, they'd say, well, what are we going to do to fix education? I go, before we even get started, let's start with the funding formula. Why East Side High School District, for example, gets in the neighborhood of $10,000 students less than, say, Palo Alto. Let's start with that as what's wrong with education. First of all, I don't accept what's wrong, but let's start. No one wants to deal with that basic inequity. So we're faced with this situation, and here's the process we're going to be following, just so you know. We've already had 3 meetings. We created a committee with representatives from every one of the schools, and we have 4 representatives from the neighborhood associations. We have the 3 unions, and we have some administrative representation. We've already had 3. This is a very fast process. We need to get this done by October 10th, announcing the schools, taking it to the board so they can have their public hearing, the information, and then take action by December 5th. This is next to impossible, but we're going to do it. And this week, we had 2 back-to-back meetings with the committee, and the committee dedicates a lot of time. They're 2.5-hour meetings. We've had 3. We have another one coming up next Wednesday. They're going to be the most informed people in the district, second only to the school board. And we've given information on the budget, human resources, the programs, facilities. They get all the information. We immediately then posted on our Parent Square. Everything is transparent. We even post the presentations to the committee. So it's very transparent. Everyone knows what's going on. Next week, we're looking at the criteria. 2 weeks after that, we're going to start the prioritization process. And then on October 30th, we're going to make the announcement to the staff first, then the community, the school community, and then the larger community of what schools. Then the hard work really starts. No one's happy at that point. And then we're going to start having town hall meetings with the school. And I have to tell you, I swore I would never be involved in a school closure process again. I turned down another, I said, I'm not going to do it. It is, even though I'm not the one closing it, it is emotionally taxing. Because I'm there sitting next to the superintendent when the time comes. And people are not happy. You don't care for kids. We have a great, everyone thinks their school is great. And you only do this because you have to. But we are averaging right now 300 students per school. That's not sustainable. It is not sustainable. We have enough funding to last us this year and next year, and then we go under. And when that happens, as Bob mentioned, and I tell the community, I go, someone, it's usually a retired superintendent comes in, not as nice as us, comes in and basically says, you can't do the job, here's what's going to happen. Bang, 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 the board is irrelevant, thank you for coming, and the announcement is made, and then they stay there. The state bails you out, they give you the money, but you got to pay it back. There's no raises for anyone, and you lose all control. You basically become, it's like a little mini dictatorship, because you can't go under. We can't print our own money. It has to be. And it's just a challenge that we have. We can talk about, you know, somebody asked me that I was doing a presentation in an auditorium, and one of the parents said, well, you know, we can get up and go to the board. And I said, yeah, you can. And then the next question was, how did we get into this position? And I pointed right to the person that said it. I go, because of that. Because boards have tried, and boards are human beings. No one likes to be threatened and so forth. And they back off. If we would have closed 2 schools 10 years ago, we would not be in this situation. Closed 3 schools 5 years ago, not in this. But now we don't have a runway anymore. We have to close $20 million deficit. And the only way we can cut every program in the district, every single program, and every single administrator, and we still would not have balanced the budget. That's how severe we're in. Every school is about $1 million in terms of, you know, salaries of principal and secretary custodians and so forth. When you have a school with 220 kids, that's not sustainable. It just isn't. The bad news is we have to do this. Here's the good news, and Andres alluded to this. When we get through this, and we will, we'll be a leaner district, smaller, but we're going to have resources to be able to put into the schools. This is really what's best for the kids. I have to tell you, I love the district. I've even grown attached, but when I go around, it doesn't meet my standards. The schools don't look, you know, the grass doesn't look good. We are land rich, but cash poor. We don't have enough support. Everyone's spread around 21 schools. Can't keep up with the landscaping. We stopped our bond work right now, so we know which schools are going to be remaining, so we could focus the funds that we have to make those schools look really good. Every middle school should have a science lab. They should be able to offer Spanish as an elective. They should be able to have accelerated math. When you only have 300-something kids in a middle school, you can't do that. Those in the school, and you have to build a master schedule, it's impossible to offer all that. So in the end, it really will be, now it's going to be painful. People will lose their jobs. And that is the most painful. In fact, my successor here, Herman Serda is going to be the new superintendent. He's terrific. I think the board's made an excellent choice. The most important decision that a board makes is who they hire as superintendent. So he's got my full support. I'm going to be with him through this entire process. He's currently the assistant sup in Campbell, and he's a terrific guy, and I think he's the perfect person for what needs to be done right now. And at the end, we will come out of this with a district that's going to have more resources, more vibrant, and we finally get out from this sword of Damocles over our head, always worried about the budget, budget, budget. And now it's showtime. It's got to be done. We'll finally get past it. The board will have options what to do with that land. Because land can be converted into resources, cash, that could be applied directly to the students and supporting the students. So at the end of the day, that's why we're doing all this. So be happy to take some questions if anyone has. Yes, yes. You. Correct.
Why they cut that money from? Because why they cut that money, or who will cut that money, the 20 million?
Where's the cuts going to
Yeah.
come from? That's the school closure.
Yeah, but what I'm saying.
How
you
did
know,
we?
San Jose is getting big and big. I don't know why you guys say.
Oh, yeah.
220 students. I see most of the schools because I remember Vocale School, they want to close a couple years ago. And what happened, you know, it's many students right there. And they build another school right there next.
Yeah.
You count those students.
Yeah.
too or not?
They're just, so I'll give you a quick example. When I retired from the Oak Grove School District in 2009, are you familiar with the Caudle area, the big development that was there? So we were projected to get 800 students out of there. And I left my successor, you know, here's a plan where they can go, and so we talked about it. We got 200 students out of there. That's all. And so the number of students that come out of these development, when we hire demographers that are experts in this, right? They project, and they look at live births. They go to how many kids are being born, and then they look at the development, and they see how much, like we're only getting like 0.2 from each development, like of a person. There just aren't enough kids coming out of those developers. It's just a strict, it's just the way it is. There are just not enough students. We're not saying there aren't any students, so you'll still see kids in the neighborhood, but there are all over the entire county that the enrollment is just declining precipitously.
What I'm saying, San Jose is getting bigger and bigger.
Right.
Why would there be less students? I mean,
It's getting bigger, but no one's moving in with kids. You know, it's like the east side, the property values in the east side have gone up. It's expensive to live in the east side, rents and housing values. So it takes a lot of money to move into a house. We're not getting kids, we're not getting families moving in with 3, 4, 5 kids. They're just not having kids, or they're waiting a lot longer to have kids.
Could I, well,
Yeah. No, I was just at a call talking this day to 360 students. That's it.
I want to just add something, Manny.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mostly from your board member, which
Yeah.
is a point that we try to make gently sometimes, and then sometimes not so much. How many students in K-8 leave that district to go to either a private school or a charter school? There's not that many high schools, so East Side hasn't been impacted as much, but it's been impacted.
Starting to.
Yep. And so it's not that there's not enough students overall. They get to elect if they come to our schools or not. And when somebody says, well, maybe Alum Rock doesn't have what it takes, I look and say, Campbell's losing too.
Yeah.
You know, Milpitas is losing.
They're all
too.
losing. Everyone's
They're all
losing students.
Because you can go to these other options. And so I think that there's many issues here that some of that we can directly impact. But at the end of the day, if I heard you correctly, up to 9, but there's only 21 schools. That's almost half that district. That to me, when I heard that translation, hit me very hard, because those are our youth, those are our families, those are our grandkids, those are our nieces and nephews that will have to do with less. Because even when you scale back, that doesn't mean the schools all end up going to the same level as those that are on the west side.
Right.
So at the end, I do think it's important to understand that there's competition now, more so at the K-8. But you know, you just watch. There's a new high school being put over at Milpitas. That's a charter school. Then they have another one that's going to, same exact company that's going to put a private one in.
That's right.
So I'm looking and saying, when they say, you folks are ripe for the taking. And it's when they say that, they're not picking peaches or apples. They're picking our students.
Yeah. And I think in order to beat the charters, you offer programs that they can't. And right now, we're so spread out, we don't have the resources, the money to compete. Once we consolidate, we will, and we're going to be able to go after those charters, and that's going to make a difference.
And if I may, so hold on one second.
Yeah.
I go back to something that I think started at Eastside, which was really having the districts on the east side all together. sort
That's-
of
you
neat.
started it. Yeah.
Okay.
I did. East
Because
Side Alliance.
it's like one large unified school district, because East Side doesn't want students coming to them unprepared.
Well, correct.
That cannot graduate. So it's in their best interest to help. And you have somebody sitting in that last row, Patty, that is an advocate for students and making sure that they, when they graduate, can actually go to a CSU or UC.
And that's the Spartan Promise will help
That's
do
right.
that. Exactly.
That's how that comes full circle. If you don't have East Side's help, in my opinion, school district, you can't have all these other plans by themselves. There has to be some type of unified front.
Yeah.
And believe me, I understand as a board member, the easiest thing to do is when you're sitting up there and there's 100 people screaming and yelling, to say, okay, we'll look at this next year.
Right.
And then what you don't know is that gets compounded, and so you end up where you're at now saying, instead of 1 or 2 schools a year, it's 9 all at once. And that's devastating. Even for those that remain, it's devastating. 'Cause
Everyone's going to be impacted.
Yeah, students are going to start leaving their communities to go to other communities just to go to school again. And that's difficult. So I believe that in all of this, what we've heard is, one, I have to congratulate you, because trying to do it in the timeline you have, that's one of the reasons.
It's impossible. I know.
Yeah, I don't do interim work anymore.
I know.
They never ask you to come in when things are really great. But I applaud you for doing it. I applaud you for being on the school board and facing the challenge. I personally am going to look to East Side and probably to Patty, because if there is an entity that can sort of pull that together and say, what can we all do, because they're all our kids.
Correct.
It starts there, I think. One of the partner districts by themselves would have difficulty doing that, but not East Side. And you have the person sitting right there that can pull that off. So I'm looking at the time, so I'm going to give 2 more. So I'm gonna answer
There was a
your-
question back there, and then Patty.
Okay.
That's in there.
So I just wanted to, unfortunately, well, I was at Independence High School last week, and the teacher told me when she was there in the 90s, there were 6,500 students. There are currently 2,300.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah.
That's just reality, but my question for you, sir, is I have family members that are teachers in Alum Rock. How many jobs are you projecting are going to be eliminated?
So the teachers will be the least impacted because the teachers follow the kids. So let's just say, for example, this group is closed and you're going to come over here, right? The kids, you still need the students. What the most impact will be administration. We don't need principal, vice principals. The custodial staff, we won't need as many. Secretary, that's where it's going to come from. The teachers themselves will be the least affected because they'll follow the kids. So in other words, if we close, we still need teachers to teach them wherever they're at. The main savings will come in the beyond the classroom part of it. We still need teachers. So they're going to teach. Patty, you're going to say something. Yeah, I was supposed to be there too.
Manny, I just wanted to say thank you so much for, I would like to leave this on a positive note anyway, because the Spartan Eastside Promise is this extraordinary benefit and opportunity we have for our students. It allows us, we are educating our students, our teachers, our attendance clerks, our custodians, our parents, everybody on this promise. Because when students are on the bubble, maybe getting a D, maybe close to an F, all we have to say is, just get that up to a C, and you can go to San Jose.
That's it.
College is for you, everybody.
That's it.
You know, and it's been so powerful. I mean, I've talked to this group forever about youth mentoring. One of the things we used to say is youth take action based on the future they see for themselves. And if they see college in their future as a possibility and a reality, that changes everything for them. And so thank you so much for your visionary work on that and, creating the alliance so that we can make that possible.
Thank you. I think for me, that is one of the proudest thing that I'm associated with. And I want to give credit at the time. The president was Mo Kawami. And when I approached him, I thought it was going to be a big, we can't. In 15 minutes, he agreed. I couldn't believe it. I was all ready with that, and it was like, oh, okay. And so I want to give a, and we've worked with 4 university presidents. The current one, Cynthia Tiente Matz, is totally in, and we just met with her, and we said, can we, you know, do we know? She goes, you're in. So it's going to be there, and that's something we're really proud of. So thank you for saying that.
Don't let me do this.
You probably
because-
have
Yeah, only because I know persons have to go.
Yeah.
We are going to let the assistant police chief say a few words if you'd like to.
Yeah.
Okay. I know if you wear a uniform to this office, this meeting, I'm going to let you talk.
You better.
But then I'm going to let, wait, I wasn't done. I wasn't done. And then I'm going to go to those that are in elected office. How's that? And I'm just doing it because of time.
Good evening, everybody. How are you? It's great to see some familiar faces in here. My name is Brandon Sanchez. I am an acting deputy chief right now, working out of the chief's office with Paul Joseph, who's our acting interim chief. Before I get into Paul, I think my partner back here, I think, saved some lives in that back row with that snake that was back there.
Yeah! How many of you knew there was a snake back there? Oh.
It was a big python you saved everybody from. Yeah.
It jumped clean over the boat.
It did, I saw it. Chief Joseph couldn't be here tonight, so I'm here on his behalf. He's going on a much-needed vacation for a couple weeks. But on that front, we're still in our search phase. We're hoping to close a loop on that here really soon. We're hoping he becomes our next official police chief. So we're hoping end of October, beginning of November, that we'll be able to say that officially. But until then, we're doing what we need to do while we're waiting. The department is doing well. We just graduated 24 people in the academy. We also graduated 10 dispatchers just yesterday. So I think dispatch is 90% staffed. Our sworn staff, though, still has a long way to go. We're still very low in that, but we're still heavily recruiting. We still have a lot of outreach that we're doing across the Bay Area, across the state, across the nation. We still get a lot of applicants. Bob wanted me to talk about a little bit about how the process works. We get a lot of applicants. We don't get as many as we used to. I think when I came on in '98, I competed against 5,000 applicants for about 50 positions. I got lucky to get one of them, but now we'll be lucky if we get 100 applicants at best. And so you take those to the hiring board, they go through their background, and we only really want the best here, right? You guys deserve to have that here. I think if we lower our standards, we run the risk of having other ancillary issues with that. So the pool, when it's really small, makes it smaller when we look for the cream of the crop. But when they go into the academy, they're faced with a lot of challenges, right? We're finding this newer generation of recruit, they're different. They're different in a lot of good ways, and they're different in maybe perhaps not so good ways. I think they see a lot of the community outreach that we do, a much needed outreach, coffee with a cop, going to a lot of community meetings. I think for a lot of them, recently I've heard, they think that that's what their job is until they kind of see the other side of the job and how dangerous it can be and how exhausting it can be. And so we'll lose some in the academy right from the beginning because of that when they start to see how the job really is on the other side. But they're subject to a lot of testing. There's a lot of POST, which is the Police Officer Standards and Training, is the entity that governs our license. And so there's a POST standard that we have to follow, and they have to score a certain level. San Jose has that level a little higher than what POST actually demands, because we want the best to come out to the community. So they have rigorous tests that they go through, both academically and physically, and a lot of decision making goes into it, a lot of community-oriented type of instruction. And so inevitably we'll lose, if we get 40, on a good academy, if we get, say, 40, we may only graduate 30 or 20 in the high 20s. And that's just the natural way of the academies just get, it works out. The second part of that is when they go to the field training program, now you take what you've learned in the academy and you apply it out into the streets. Inevitably, we'll lose a few of those recruits that way as well. So if it's Academy of 40 that starts, we may, at the end of the day, through the academy and through field training, we only maybe get 20, half, maybe a little more than half. We try to be a little better. Our academy classes are much smaller now. Like I said, we just graduated 24. I think we have 30 scheduled for the next class. But we're doing everything we can. We're trying to reach everybody on social media, trying to reach people on different platforms. If you know anybody that you think would be a good fit, please. You guys are also our recruiters out there. I would implore you to help recruit us, for us rather, because we need as many people as we can get. But we're still doing good. I think I'm very optimistic that Chief Joseph will become the next chief. He has a very good plan that he wants to implement. I think because of our staffing, we're trying to leverage technology a little bit more. We're leaning in more on some software for analytics to kind of identify where some of the problems are analytically, so we can readjust our resources to deploy them where the crime is happening. We've bought some software to help us with that. We bought some software to help bring in all our databases together. I'm sure some people have maybe experienced that sometimes we can be very siloed in some of the technology that we have. We just bought one that's going to bring everything together. And so we really have to lean into those things because of our staffing levels being so thin. But we're still doing good. I say that because our homicide rate for a city our size is still very low compared to other cities. I was just in Baltimore a couple weeks ago. They have a 600,000 resident population. They're always in the high double digits in homicides. They have, when they were fully shrink, they were 3,000 sworn. I think now they're down to 22. Well, San Jose, we're almost at 1 million, and we have 1,100 sworn. But our homicide rate is really low. We're always in the, say, the mid-50s, maybe high 40s. But on top of that, for the last 4 years, we've had a 100% homicide clearance rate. That is not the national average. The national average is about 30%. And so we've always been in the high 90s. And so if you take what little staffing that we have, but the dedication, the heart, and the spirit that we have, we still go out there and we still do a pretty good job. So I'm very proud of them for that. But we're doing well. We have our eye on the future, and I think the future is bright. I think, and we're just trying to get to the next level. So with that, I'll field some questions, answer some questions. Yes, sir.
Out of the 24 that just completed the academy, how many of those are bilingual? Specifically, how many are Spanish speakers?
Yeah, great question. Spanish speakers, I believe, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, I think there was about 4 or 5 Spanish speakers. Was there? Yeah.
And the last class, the bilingual for Spanish specifically has been well represented in the last two classes.
Yes. The academy classes now are very, very diverse. We really look for diversity. Why? Because the community is diverse, right? We want the officers to reflect the community. We just signed on to the 30 by 30 project, which is 30% women by 2030. So we were trying to hire a lot of females. So we do look for those things. We have a lot of bilinguals, not in just Spanish, but in Vietnamese and a few other languages. So we really, really try to diversify our staff. Any other questions?
How was the barbecue?
Barbecue was fantastic. Thank you.
So we had 36 officers. We were guaranteed 40. Guess what? The 4 other ones came the next day and got their gifts.
Barbecue?
No, they got. So when we have a barbecue, we can't just offer food. So we have students create a gift for the officers. And this was our official 19th year, but our unofficial 22nd year honoring our police force at Plata Royal.
Yeah, Plata has been fantastic to us. If you didn't know, I think it was Tuesday, San Jose Police Department celebrated 175 years in existence. So Paul Joseph put something out on our social media to kind of talk about the history of the police department. It's pretty cool if you get a chance to watch it. It kind of shows the progression where we came from and where we're at today. So very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
So I want to thank you all for staying a little bit later. We cannot allow a school to lose half their schools. At the same time, there's a lot that we can do, and I think it's only appropriate that those persons that feel that need to be involved in that in whatever manner touch with the school district. But you know, as I look at the two water district people that are here all the time, I can't think of a meeting where one of them wasn't here. That's commitment to community. So we're going to end this with a comment by Tony.
Oh, thank you.
Because of the time.
Thank you, thank you. Thank you, Bob. I just, you know, I didn't want this to end on such a negative note on the schools. Where there are challenges, there are also opportunities. You know, you're going to have a lot of land, and that land could be used to house teachers, police officers, firefighters. You can build. I remember when I was on community college district, we had a trip to Seattle, and I learned then that the University of Washington owns all of downtown Seattle, and they lease it, and that's why there has always been a growing university and never begs for money like we have to in Alum Rock. That's what we need to do, and that's what we need to talk about. And I think, you know, I get it. I know what the pain is all about. But I think when you talk to the community about closing schools, you should talk to them about the opportunities that you have. When I was at the community college district, and I saw that, what did we do? You know, we have a it's small, but the community college there in San Jose Evergreen, there on Evergreen, we got a lot of businesses going on there, and there's a corner there that belongs to the community college. That was developed, and the community college gets rent every day from that, and the community pays for it, and so they get the same benefit. That's what can be that's what can happen with this land, and I think you have to talk to the people about that. So it's not just a loss; it could be a net gain. You know, and so I think you have to talk about pro-prosperity. That's all I want to say. It's not all that negative. Yeah, it's bad, but it can be good in the end, and you could take all that money and get it back to the students. You know, we can have real programs, and all the programs that we need, and all the programs that the West Side gets, we can have if you do that correctly. So my hat's off to you. I know how painful it is, but pro-prosperity, man.
An attorney, right? He knows how to do it. If you don't look at that side, then you wonder why the hell you're going there every day. Exactly. And so there are a number of institutions outside of California that do exactly that we can help you look at too. So you have this whole room willing to help you make sure that things go well for the families and children in Alum Rock and San Jose. If there's any food left, please go eat it. I apologize again for keeping you late, but I have to tell you one last word real quick. When I first started doing this, Victor and I always talked at the end of them, and he would always say the same thing to me. But you go too long, but you go too long, but you go too long. And so one time I had the guts to say, you know, Victor, you never once stopped at 7 o'clock. He goes, cállate. He goes, don't tell me what I've done. I'm telling you what to do. And I thought, that's interesting. So at least nobody's